Welcome aboard the Rising Word Express, your ticket to an unforgettable literary journey through Japan's most beloved stories.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your conductor, James Hollis, speaking. I'll be your guide on this literary journey aboard the Rising Word Express. It's my pleasure to take you through stories that have touched hearts across generations. Today, we present to you a masterpiece of Japanese literature, Run, Melos by Osamu Dazai. This is a moving tale of friendship, trust, and the strength of the human spirit. Set in the ancient Greek city of Syracuse, this story follows a young man named Melos, driven by a strong sense of justice as he stands against the tyranny of King Dionysius. He stakes his very life to prove the power of loyalty and friendship. Through countless trials, Melos' journey challenges us to reflect on the true meaning of trust. A raging torrent, treacherous mountains, and merciless bandits. Will Melos fulfill his promise? What fate awaits this bond of friendship? A raging torrent, treacherous mountains, and merciless bandits. Will Melos fulfill his promise? What fate awaits this bond of friendship? Now, let us embark on a journey into the world of Run, Melos. Sit back and enjoy the adventure. The train will be leaving shortly. Melos was enraged. He swore to rid the world of that cunning and tyrannical king. Melos knew nothing of politics. He was a simple shepherd from a village. His days were spent playing the flute and tending to his sheep. Yet, when faced with evil, he had a sharper sense than most. At dawn that morning, Melos left his village. He crossed fields and mountains, traveling 10 leagues to reach the city of Syracuse. Melos had no father or mother, nor did he have a wife. He lived quietly with his shy 16-year-old sister. She was soon to be married to a steadfast young shepherd from their village. The wedding was approaching fast, and Melos had come all this way to purchase the bride's garments and provisions for the feast. Having gathered everything he needed, Melos wandered the city streets aimlessly. There was someone he wished to see, an old friend, Selinontius, who now worked as a stonemason here in Syracuse. It had been years since they had met, and Melos was looking forward to their reunion. As he walked, a strange unease settled over him. The city felt eerily quiet. True, it was after sunset, and darkness cloaked the streets, but the silence seemed unnatural. Something wasn't right. Curiosity gave way to worry. Melos stopped a young man on the street.
Has something happened? 2 years ago, when I last came here, the city was full of life, even at night. There were songs and laughter.
The young man shook his head, but gave no answer. Melos continued down the street until he met an old man. This time, he asked more forcefully,
What has happened here? Why is the city so silent?
The old man said nothing at first, but Melos grabbed his shoulders and shook him. Finally, in a hushed voice, the old man spoke, glancing nervously around.
The king. He kills people.
Why? Why does he kill them?
He accuses them of harboring treacherous thoughts, but no one bears such thoughts.
How many has he killed?
Many. It began with his brother-in-law, then his own heir, then his sister, her children, the queen, even the wise minister Alexis.
Melos was aghast.
Has the king gone mad?
No, he is not mad. He simply trusts no one. He fears betrayal from all sides. Lately, he demands hostages from anyone who lives too lavishly. If they refuse, they are crucified. 6 people were executed today.
Upon hearing this, Melos was filled with righteous fury.
What a despicable king! I cannot let him live.
Melos was a man of simple thoughts and unshakable convictions. Still carrying the goods he had purchased, he marched straight to the palace gates. He was soon arrested by the patrolling guards. During the search, they found a dagger concealed in his clothing, causing an uproar. Melos was brought before the king.
What were you planning to do with this dagger? Speak.
The king's voice was calm, yet there was an air of authority. His pale face bore deep, furrowed lines between his brows.
I intended to save this city from your tyranny.
Melos replied without flinching. King Dionysius chuckled bitterly.
You foolish man. You cannot comprehend my solitude.
Silence. To distrust the hearts of your people is the gravest sin a ruler can commit. You doubt even the loyalty of your subjects.
You taught me to doubt. It was humanity that showed me the folly of trust. People are creatures of self-interest. No one is to be trusted.
With a sigh, King Dionysius continued.
And yet, I long for peace.
Peace? For what purpose? To protect your throne. Ha! Slaughtering the innocent. That is your idea of peace?
Silence, you base creature.
The king swiftly raised his head to deliver his retort.
Anyone can speak of purity and righteousness with words, but I see through the very core of human hearts. You too will beg for mercy once you are nailed to the cross, but it will be too late.
Ah, how clever you are, your majesty. Go on, indulge in your arrogance. But let me tell you this, I am prepared to die. I will never beg for my life. However...
Melos faltered for a moment, lowering his gaze to the ground.
However, if you wish to show me some measure of mercy, grant me 3 days before my execution. I must return to my village and see my only sister wed. Give me just 3 days. I will hold her wedding and return here without fail.
The king let out a low, rasping laugh.
Ha ha ha, absurd. What a ridiculous lie. Do you truly believe a bird set free will fly back into its cage?
Yes, I will return.
His voice was filled with desperate conviction.
I swear on my honor. Please, grant me 3 days. My sister is waiting for me to come back. If you cannot trust my word, then take my closest friend, Selenuntius, as a hostage. He lives in this city. He is a stonemason. Bind him in my place. If I fail to return by sunset on the 3rd day, kill him instead. Please, I beg you.
Hearing this, the king smiled cruelly. His twisted thoughts played out in his mind.
What a bold fool.
He mused to himself.
He will never return. Let him go. It will be amusing to watch him deceive himself into believing he is honest. And when he doesn't come back, I'll have his friend executed. Yes, let the world see that no one is to be trusted. I'll make an example of this so-called friendship, and all those naive believers in truth and loyalty will despair.
Finally, the king spoke.
Your request is granted. Call your friend. Return by sunset on the 3rd day, or he will be executed in your stead. Even if you are just a little late, he will die. But...
The king leaned in with a chilling grin.
Your crime will be forgiven.
What? What do you mean by that?
Ha! If you value your life, come back late. I know your heart already.
Melos clenched his fists and stamped his feet in frustration. He was too furious to respond. Later that night, Selenuntius was summoned to the palace. There, under the gaze of King Dionysius, two dear friends met again after 2 years apart. Melos explained everything. Selenuntius listened in silence, nodding solemnly. Then, without a word, he pulled Melos into a firm embrace. Between true friends, no words were needed. Selenuntius was bound in chains, and Melos set out immediately. It was early summer, and the sky glittered with countless stars. Melos traveled through the night without rest, rushing along the 10-league road to his village. He arrived the following morning, exhausted. The sun was already high in the sky, and the villagers were out in the fields, hard at work. His 16-year-old sister was tending to the sheep in his place. She was startled to see her brother stumble toward her, visibly drained and worn.
Brother, what's happened?
She bombarded him with questions. Melos forced a smile.
It's nothing. There are still matters I must attend to in the city. I must leave again soon. But tomorrow you will be married. It's better to hold the wedding sooner, don't you think?
His sister blushed, her cheeks turning red.
Are you happy? I brought you beautiful wedding garments. Now go. Spread the word to the villagers. Tell them the wedding will be tomorrow.
With that, Melos staggered toward his home. He decorated the altar to the gods, prepared the feast, and then collapsed onto his bed, falling into a deep, dreamless sleep. Melos awoke to find that night had fallen. Rising quickly, he made his way to the house of his sister's betrothed.
I must ask you a favor. There are certain circumstances that require the wedding to take place tomorrow.
The young shepherd, his sister's fiancé, looked surprised.
Tomorrow? That won't do. We haven't prepared anything yet. Please, wait until the grape harvest season.
I can't wait that long. Please, I beg you, let it be tomorrow.
The groom, however, was stubborn and unyielding. The debate continued until dawn. Finally, after much persuasion, coaxing and reasoning, Melos managed to convince the groom. The wedding was set for noon. The ceremony was conducted under the watchful eyes of the gods. Just as the bride and groom finished their vows, black clouds rolled across the sky, and the first drops of rain began to fall. Soon, it turned into a torrential downpour. The villagers attending the feast sensed an ominous sign in the sudden storm, but they pressed on. They crowded into the small house, ignoring the oppressive heat and humidity, singing songs and clapping their hands to keep their spirits high. Melos, too, was all smiles, his face glowing with joy. For a brief time, he even forgot the grim promise he had made to the king. As night deepened, the feast grew more lively. The revelers paid no heed to the storm raging outside. For a fleeting moment, Melos wished he could remain in this happy place forever. He longed to live out his days among these good people, but he knew that his life was no longer his own. He belonged to his promise. Resolving to leave, Melos pushed aside his lingering attachments. There was still plenty of time until sunset the next day. He decided he would take a short rest before departing. Surely by then, the rain would subside. In truth, he simply wished to linger a little longer in the warmth of his village. Even a man as steadfast as Melos could not completely shake off his human desire for comfort. Approaching his sister, who seemed lost in a dreamy haze of joy, he offered his blessing.
Congratulations. I'm exhausted, so I'll excuse myself for a bit of sleep. Once I wake up, I'll head back to the city. There's an important matter I must attend to. But don't worry. You have a kind husband now. You won't be lonely anymore. Remember, the two things I despise most are distrust and deceit. Never keep secrets from your husband. That's all I ask of you.
The bride nodded dreamily, still in the haze of her bliss. Melos then turned to the groom and clapped him on the shoulder.
We're both unprepared, aren't we? I have no riches to give you, just my sister and my sheep. They're yours now. One more thing. Be proud to call yourself the brother-in-law of Melos.
The groom rubbed his hands together awkwardly, embarrassed by the praise. Melos laughed and bowed to the villagers before slipping away from the feast. He made his way to the sheepfold, curled up among the sheep, and fell into a deep, death-like slumber. Melos awoke at dawn the next day.
Damn it. Did I oversleep?
He leapt to his feet, only to breathe a sigh of relief.
No, I still have time. If I leave now, I'll reach the city well before sunset.
Determined, he vowed to show the king that human integrity still existed.
I will return in time. I'll climb the execution platform with a smile and prove to him the strength of a man's word.
With calm composure, Melos began his preparations. The rain had lessened to a light drizzle. Once ready, he stretched his arms wide, shaking off the stiffness in his limbs. And then, without hesitation, Melos sprang into a run, slicing through the rain like an arrow.
I will be killed tonight. I run toward my death. I run to save my friend who stands in my place. I run to shatter the cunning, deceitful heart of the king. I must run, and then I will die.
From his youth, Melos had lived to protect his honor. He took one last glance at his village.
Farewell, my home.
His heart was heavy. Several times he felt his legs falter, ready to stop. But each time he shouted at himself,
Onward! Onward!
He ran through the village, across the fields, and into the forest. By the time he reached the neighboring village, the rain had stopped, and the sun stood high in the sky, blazing down with relentless heat. Wiping the sweat from his brow with his fist, Melos took a breath.
I've made it this far. There's no longer any longing left for home. My sister will surely be happy with her husband. I have no regrets. All I need to do now is make it to the king's castle.
Feeling reassured, Melos slowed his pace.
No need to rush. Let's take it slow.
He hummed a cheerful tune as he walked. He traveled 2 leagues, then 3. His spirits lifted. But as he reached the halfway point, disaster struck. He stopped in his tracks. A river loomed ahead of him. The heavy rain from the day before had caused the mountain springs to overflow, turning the river into a violent torrent. The bridge had been completely destroyed, swept away by the raging current. Melos stood frozen, staring at the scene in disbelief. He scanned the riverbanks, calling out at the top of his lungs.
Is anyone there? Is there a boat? A ferryman?
But there was no one. The river had swallowed everything, even the ferries and the ferry keepers. The floodwaters raged on, louder and wilder, with each passing moment, churning like a mad sea. Despairing, Melos sank to his knees on the riverbank, tears streaming down his face. He raised his hands to the sky, pleading with the gods.
Zeus, have mercy. Calm these raging waters. Time is slipping away. The sun is already at its peak. If it sets before I reach the king's castle, my dear friend will die in my place.
The floodwaters seemed to mock him, roaring and crashing with increasing fury. The waves swallowed each other, rolling and twisting in a relentless dance of destruction. Time was slipping away. Melos knew there was no other choice. He steeled himself.
I must swim. So be it. Let the gods witness the power of love and faithfulness, a force greater than even these raging waters.
Without hesitation, Melos leapt into the river. The torrent surged like 100 writhing serpents, but he fought on with all his might. He clawed through the swirling eddies, arms straining against the current, refusing to be swept away. It was a fierce, desperate struggle. Perhaps even the gods took pity on him. For despite the merciless torrent, Melos managed to seize hold of a tree trunk on the far bank.
Thank the gods. Thanks.
He shook himself off like a drenched horse and wasted no time. Every second counted. The sun was already tilting westward. Panting and gasping for breath, Melos climbed the mountain path. As he reached the summit, relief washed over him. But then, suddenly, a group of bandits jumped out from the shadows.
Stop right there!
What are you doing? I must reach the king's castle before sunset. Let me pass.
Not a chance. Leave everything you're carrying.
I carry nothing but my life. And that, too, I'm about to give to the king.
Then it's your life we want.
Melos narrowed his eyes.
Ah, so the king sent you to ambush me here, did he?
Suddenly, the bandits raised their clubs without a word. Melos bent his body low, dodging swiftly. In one leap, like a bird in flight, he lunged at the nearest bandit and snatched the club from his hands.
Forgive me. This is for justice.
With a fierce blow, he knocked down 3 of them in an instant. Seizing the moment as the remaining bandits hesitated in fear, Melos bolted down the mountain pass. He descended in one breath, but the exertion took its toll. The afternoon sun blazed directly overhead, scorching him relentlessly. Sweat poured from his brow, and dizziness washed over him again and again. His legs wobbled.
No, this won't do.
He shook his head to clear his mind, forcing himself to take a few more steps. But at last, his knees buckled, and he collapsed to the ground. He couldn't get up. Gazing at the sky, he wept bitterly.
Ah, I swam through the raging river. I defeated the bandits. I ran like the wind to get this far. And now I'm too exhausted to move. How pitiful I am. I've come so far, only to fail here.
He buried his face in his hands, grief-stricken.
My dear friend will die because he trusted me. I am the very embodiment of betrayal. I've played right into the king's hands.
Though he berated himself, his body was utterly spent. He had no strength left, not even to crawl forward like a worm. He lay down in the grass by the roadside. As his body succumbed to exhaustion, so too did his spirit. Despair crept into his heart, a feeling unworthy of a hero.
I've done all I could. I never intended to break my promise. The gods can bear witness. I gave it everything I had. I ran until I could run no more. I am no traitor.
He clenched his fists.
If only I could split open my chest and show my heart, my crimson heart, beating with love and truth, I would let the world see that my blood runs pure with loyalty.
But then he sighed deeply.
Yet, here I am, completely drained at the most crucial moment. What a miserable man I am. People will laugh at me. My family will be disgraced. I've deceived my friend. Collapsing halfway through is no different from never trying at all.
tears streamed down his face.
Ah, it's all meaningless. Perhaps this is my fate. Selenuntius, forgive me. You always believed in me, and I never once doubted you. We were truly good friends. Not once did we let suspicion cloud our hearts.
He closed his eyes and imagined his friend waiting patiently in the castle.
Even now, you're waiting for me, aren't you? Thank you, Selenuntius. Thank you for trusting me so completely. That thought alone is unbearable.
His voice trembled with emotion.
Friendship is the greatest treasure in this world. Selenuntius, I ran for you. I never meant to betray you. Believe me, I swam through the torrent, escaped the bandits, and flew down the mountain pass. Only I could have done it.
But despair tightened its grip on him.
I can go no further. I've lost. Laugh at me. The king whispered to me. Come a little late, he said. If you do, your friend will die and you will be spared. I hated his treachery, yet now I'm doing exactly what he wanted. I'll arrive too late. The king will smirk, thinking he was right all along. He'll let me go free, as if it's nothing.
Melos clenched his fists, despair turning into bitter self-loathing.
If that happens, it will be worse than death. I'll be branded a traitor forever, the most dishonorable man on earth.
He resolved himself.
Selenuntius, I'll die with you. You believed in me to the very end. You must be waiting, still believing. I cannot bear it.
But doubt gnawed at him.
Or is that just my delusion? Perhaps you've already given up on me.
Melos shook his head, trying to banish his dark thoughts.
Maybe I should just live on as a villain. Return to my village. My home is there. My sheep. My sister and her husband wouldn't cast me out, would they?
A bitter laugh escaped his lips.
Justice, loyalty, love. What nonsense. In the end, isn't survival the only law of humanity? Kill others to save yourself. That's the way of the world.
He spat on the ground.
How foolish I've been.
Exhausted, defeated, Melos sprawled out, limbs flung wide. Slowly he drifted into a restless doze. But then, a sound reached his ears. It was the gentle murmur of water. Melos stirred, lifting his head cautiously, holding his breath. The sound of flowing water was close, right at his feet. He rose unsteadily and found a spring gushing from a crack in the rock, bubbling forth as if whispering secrets. Melos knelt beside it, scooped up the water with both hands, and took a sip. A long sigh escaped his lips. It felt as though he had awakened from a dream.
I can walk. I can keep going.
The water had restored not only his body, but a spark of hope.
I must fulfill my duty. I must uphold my honor, even at the cost of my life.
The setting sun cast a red glow through the trees, lighting the leaves and branches as though they were ablaze. There was still time before sunset.
Someone is waiting for me. Someone who trusts me without a shadow of doubt.
His heart swelled with resolve.
My life is of no importance. I cannot repay faith with death. I must prove myself worthy of trust. There is only one thing left to do.
He clenched his fists and took a deep breath.
Run, Melos!
With renewed strength, he broke into a sprint once more.
I am trusted. I am trusted. That devilish whisper from earlier. It was a dream. A bad dream. Forget it. Such dreams come when the body is exhausted. Melos, it's not your shame. You're still a true hero. You can stand again, and you can run again. How grateful I am. I can die as a man of justice.
The sun continued its relentless descent toward the horizon.
The sun is setting. It sinks so quickly. Wait for me, Zeus. From the moment I was born, I have been an honest man. Let me die as an honest man.
Pushing aside those in his way, Melos ran like a black wind through the countryside. He dashed straight through the middle of a field banquet, startling the revelers. He kicked away a barking dog, leapt over a stream, and ran 10 times faster than the slowly sinking sun. As he sped past a group of travelers, he caught a snippet of their conversation.
By now that man must already be on the cross.
Melos's heart tightened.
That man is the reason I'm running. I can't let him die. Hurry, Melos. You mustn't be late. Show them the power of love and loyalty.
His clothes were in tatters, and he was now nearly naked. He could barely breathe. Blood spurted from his mouth 2, 3 times. But then, in the distance, he saw it, the Tower of Syracuse, shining brilliantly in the light of the setting sun. Suddenly, a voice carried on the wind.
Melos!
It was a groan, almost a sob.
Who's there?
It's me, Philostratos. I am your friend, Selenuntius's apprentice.
The young stonemason, running after Melos, shouted desperately.
It's too late. You're wasting your efforts. Stop running. You can't save him now.
The sun hasn't set yet.
Right now, he's being executed. You were too late. Oh, how I curse you. If only you had arrived just a little earlier.
No, the sun hasn't set yet.
Melos kept his eyes fixed on the large crimson sun, his heart on the verge of breaking. There was no choice but to keep running.
Stop! Stop running! Your own life is at stake now. He believed in you. Even as they dragged him to the execution site, he remained calm. When the king mocked him, he simply replied, "Melos will come." He held onto that belief with unwavering strength.
That's why I'm running. I'm trusted, and that's why I run. It's not about being on time. It's not about life or death. I'm running for something far greater, something terrifyingly immense. Follow me, Philostratos.
Are you mad? Fine. Run as fast as you can. Maybe, just maybe, you'll make it in time. Run!
There was no need for more words. The sun had not yet set. With every ounce of strength left in him, Melos ran. His mind was empty, free of thoughts. He was propelled by some incomprehensible, overwhelming force. The sun dipped lower, shimmering on the horizon. As its last rays were about to vanish, Melos burst into the execution site like a whirlwind. He had made it in time.
Wait! Don't kill him! Melos has returned. Just as I promised, I have come back.
He thought he had shouted loud enough for everyone to hear, but his voice, hoarse from exhaustion, barely reached beyond a whisper. No one noticed his arrival. The execution platform stood tall, and Selenuntius, bound with ropes, was being slowly hoisted up the cross. Melos saw it. With his last burst of courage, he pushed through the crowd, just as he had swum through the raging river. He shoved aside everyone in his path.
It's me! Executioner! I'm the one to be killed! I'm Melos! I am the one who left him as a hostage! I'm here now!
His voice was strained and broken, but he shouted with all his might as he climbed the execution platform and clung to his friend's feet. The crowd stirred. Murmurs rippled through the onlookers.
Ah! He's come! Spare him! Forgive them both!
The ropes binding Selenuntius were loosened. Melos, with tears in his eyes, looked up at his friend.
Selenuntius, hit me. Strike my cheek with all your strength. I had a terrible dream along the way. A nightmare in which I betrayed you. If you don't strike me, I have no right to embrace you as a friend. Hit me.
Selenuntius, understanding everything, nodded solemnly. Then, with a loud crack that echoed across the execution grounds, he struck Melos's right cheek with all his might. After delivering the blow, he smiled gently.
Melos, now you must strike me. Hit my cheek with the same force. For 3 days I waited for you. But once, just once, a flicker of doubt crossed my mind. For the first time in my life, I doubted you. Unless you strike me, I cannot embrace you as a true friend.
Melos clenched his fist, and with a powerful swing, struck Selenuntius's cheek.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, my friend.
The two men embraced fiercely, holding each other close, and then, unable to hold back their emotions any longer, they burst into tears, weeping aloud in joy. From the crowd, the sound of sobbing rose. Even King Dionysius, standing behind the onlookers, gazed intently at the two friends. Slowly, he stepped forward, his face flushed with emotion.
Your wish has been granted. You have triumphed over my heart. Loyalty and trust are no empty illusions. I see that now. Please, may I join you? Will you accept me as one of your own? I ask you, let me be part of your fellowship.
A roar of applause erupted from the crowd.
Long live the king! Long live the king!
Amid the cheers, a young girl stepped forward, offering a crimson mantle to Melos. Melos stood dumbfounded, unsure of what to do. Seeing this, his faithful friend Selenuntius leaned in with a playful smile.
Melos, you're practically naked. Quickly, put on that mantle. This sweet girl couldn't bear the thought of everyone seeing you like that.
The hero's face turned bright red. How was your journey with us today? The path Melos ran with all his strength is not just a story. It may exist within each of us. What does trust mean to you? Whom do you trust? What do you protect? And can you uphold that belief, no matter the circumstances? The Rising Word Express has brought you a tale of loyalty, courage, and unwavering friendship. As you disembark, take with you the lesson of this journey. Trust, once formed, is a bond stronger than fear, stronger than doubt, and stronger even than death. Thank you for traveling with us on this timeless journey of faith and honor. We look forward to seeing you again on our next adventure. Until then, may the spirit of Melos continue to run within your hearts.